Self-compassion. Stop beating yourself up and leave insecurity behind, by Kristin Neff, Ph.D. Introduction. Imagine you're in your final year of a demanding university program. The pressure is immense. You're finishing a dissertation, the culmination of years of hard work. But on the inside, you're not celebrating. You're collapsing. A marriage has ended, and you're drowning in a sea of shame and self-loathing. You feel like a failure, and that feeling is a constant, heavy weight. This was the world of a young woman named Kristin Neff. At the height of her academic career at the University of California, Berkeley, her personal life was in ruins. And the voice in her head was relentless, telling her she wasn't good enough, that she had messed up beyond repair. In a desperate search for peace, she signed up for a meditation class at a local Buddhist center. She didn't know it at the time, but this one decision would not only change her life, it would spark a quiet revolution in the world of psychology. What she discovered was a concept so simple, yet so profound, it seemed almost too good to be true. She learned that Buddhists speak often about compassion, but she'd always assumed it was for others. The revelation that changed everything was the idea that you could turn that compassion inward. That you were allowed to be nice to yourself. This is the story behind the book we're exploring today. Self-compassion. Stop beating yourself up and leave insecurity behind. Authored by that same woman, now Drive. Kristin Neff. This book has become a landmark text, translated into dozens of languages and embraced by millions worldwide. Drive. Neff is now the world's leading researcher on self-compassion, and her work has fundamentally challenged our culture's obsession with a very different idea: self-esteem. For decades, we've been told that the key to a happy life is to feel good about ourselves, to feel special, to be above average. But what happens when we're not? What happens when we fail, when we make a mistake, when we feel painfully, hopelessly average? That's when the relentless pursuit of self-esteem crumbles, leaving us with anxiety, depression, and that same brutal inner critic drive Neff was trying to escape. Today, we are going to journey into her discovery. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about finding a source of strength that doesn't vanish when life gets hard. By the end of our time together, you will understand a kinder, more powerful way to navigate the challenges of being human. You will learn the 3 essential ingredients for building a foundation of inner resilience, one that can weather any storm. This is the secret to leaving insecurity behind, not by pretending you're perfect, but by learning to embrace your imperfections with warmth and courage. Book summary. We live in a world that's constantly measuring us. From the grades on our report cards to the number of likes on our photos, we're placed on a scale. And on that scale, average feels like a failing grade. We're taught, from a very young age, that to be worthy, we have to be special. Above average. Exceptional. Think about the fictional town of Lake Wobegon, where, as the storyteller Garrison Keillor famously said, all the women are strong, all the men are good-looking, and all the children are above average. Psychologists have a name for this very human tendency. They call it the Lake Wobegon effect. It's our deep-seated need to see ourselves as better than others. Research has shown this in almost comical ways. 94% of college professors think they're better at their jobs than their colleagues. 90% of drivers believe they're more skilled than the person in the next lane. It's a mathematical impossibility, of course. We can't all be above average at the same time. So how do we cope in a world where we're constantly falling short of this impossible standard? Not very well. We tend to do 2 things. First, we inflate our own egos. We wear rose-colored glasses when we look in the mirror. And second, to make ourselves feel even better, we engage in what's called downward social comparison. We subtly, or not so subtly, put other people down to feel superior by contrast. Think of the burn book from the movie Mean Girls. A notebook filled with gossip and rumors designed to tear other people down. Also, the girls at the top could maintain their status. While most of us don't keep a physical burn book, we often do it in our minds. We secretly delight in a celebrity's bad hair day or a rival's misstep. It gives our ego a temporary little boost. But this strategy comes at a terrible price. When we're constantly looking for the worst in others, our world becomes a dark and negative place. We create the very thing we're trying to avoid, a feeling of disconnection and isolation. And then there's the inevitable crash. We can't always blame others. We can't always feel special. Eventually, we have to look in the mirror and face our own flaws. And what happens then? For most of us, that's when the inner critic comes out, and it is absolutely brutal. You're so fat and disgusting. That was a stupid thing to say. You're such a loser. We speak to ourselves in a way we would never dream of speaking to a friend, or even a stranger. This constant self-judgment is the dark side of the self-esteem game. When we can't win by feeling superior, we punish ourselves for being inferior. It's a pendulum swinging wildly between ego inflation and self-hatred. And it's exhausting. This relentless cycle is a major source of the anxiety and depression so rampant in our society. This is the world Kristin Neff found herself in. And it's the world she offers us a way out of. Her journey began when she encountered a simple but revolutionary idea from Buddhist philosophy. What if you treated yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend who was struggling? At first, the idea seemed foreign, even dangerous. She worried, if I'm too self-compassionate, won't I just become lazy and selfish? It's a fear almost everyone has. We believe that our inner critic, that harsh drill sergeant in our heads, is the only thing keeping us in line, the only thing motivating us to succeed. We think that if we let up, we'll just sit on the couch and eat pizza all day. But as Neff began to practice this new way of relating to herself, she realized the opposite was true. Beating herself up wasn't making her a better person. It was making her feel inadequate and insecure, and that frustration was spilling out onto the people she loved most. It was making her afraid to admit her mistakes, because she couldn't bear the self-hate that would follow. She realized that self-compassion wasn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. It was a source of strength. It offered the same protection from harsh self-criticism that self-esteem promises, but without the dangerous side effects. Self-compassion doesn't require you to be better than others. It doesn't require you to be perfect. It only requires you to be human. This insight became her life's work. She set out to define self-compassion not as a vague, spiritual idea, but as a psychological construct that could be studied and measured. And through her groundbreaking research, she identified 3 core components, 3 essential ingredients that, when combined, create a powerful foundation for emotional well-being. They are self-kindness, a sense of common humanity, and mindfulness. Let's explore each one, because understanding these 3 pillars is the key to transforming your relationship with yourself. The first pillar is self-kindness. This seems obvious, but it's the one we struggle with the most. Self-kindness simply means being gentle and understanding with ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, rather than being harshly critical. It's about putting a supportive arm around our own shoulder, instead of hitting ourselves over the head. Imagine your best friend calls you, upset. They just failed an important exam. What do? You don't say, "Well, you're an idiot. I can't believe you messed that up." Of course not. You'd say something like, "Hey, it's okay. These things happen. You did your best, and this one exam doesn't define you. I'm here for you." Self-kindness is about directing that same response inward. It's stopping and saying, "This is really difficult right now. How can I comfort and care for myself in this moment?" Now, why is this so hard? And why is it so powerful when we actually do it? The answer lies deep within our biology. As mammals, we are wired with what's called an attachment and caregiving system. Think of a mother bear with her cubs, or a human mother rocking her crying baby. This instinct to tend and befriend is just as crucial for survival as the fight or flight instinct. When we give and receive care, our bodies release a hormone called oxytocin. Researchers call it the love hormone or the cuddle hormone. Oxytocin makes us feel safe, calm, trusting, and connected. It actively reduces fear and anxiety. It's the biochemical equivalent of a warm hug. Here's the incredible part. Our bodies don't know the difference between receiving compassion from someone else and giving it to ourselves. When you actively comfort yourself, when you speak to yourself in a warm, gentle tone, or even give yourself a physical gesture of kindness like a gentle hug, you are tapping into this ancient mammalian caregiving system. You are literally changing your own biochemistry, calming your threat system and activating your system for safety and connection. Self-criticism, on the other hand, does the exact opposite. When you attack yourself, your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, lights up. It triggers the fight or flight response, flooding your body with adrenaline and the stress hormone cortisol. It's as if you are being attacked by a predator, except the predator is you. Over time, high levels of cortisol can lead to anxiety and depression. So, self-kindness isn't just a nice idea. It's a physiological tool for creating emotional resilience. It's about consciously choosing to activate the part of your brain that makes you feel safe, secure, and cared for, instead of the part that makes you feel threatened and afraid. The second pillar of self-compassion is a sense of common humanity. This is what distinguishes self-compassion from self-pity. When things go wrong, our first reaction is often to feel isolated. We think, why me? It feels like we are the only one in the world who is struggling, the only one who has failed so spectacularly. This feeling of separation is a form of emotional tunnel vision. It makes our suffering so much worse. Common humanity is the recognition that suffering and personal inadequacy are part of the shared human experience. It's remembering that everyone, everywhere, feels this way sometimes. Failure, disappointment, and imperfection are not abnormal. They are what it means to be human. Self-pity says, poor me. Self-compassion says, everyone suffers. This is what it feels like to be human right now. The pain I feel when I'm rejected is the same fundamental pain you feel when you're rejected. The circumstances are different, the intensity might be different, but the core experience is universal. We all know what it's like to not get what we want. Drive. Neff shares a deeply personal story that illustrates this beautifully. A few years after she began her career, she gave birth to a son named Rowan. By the time Rowan was 18 months old, she and her husband knew something was wrong. He wasn't pointing, wasn't responding to his name, and would spend hours obsessively lining up his toys. The nagging worry grew until one day, she sat down at her computer and typed autism, early signs of. The web page listed 10 signs. Rowan had 9. In that moment, her world shattered. The dream of a perfect son, the life she had planned, vanished. Her first reaction was grief, fear, and a slide into self-pity. When she took Rowan to the park, she would look at the other mothers with their normal kids and feel a profound sense of isolation. Why me? Why can't I have a normal child? But then, her practice of self-compassion kicked in. She would look at those same families and intentionally remind herself of their common humanity. She would think, their challenge might not be autism, but every family has challenges. Maybe it's depression, or an eating disorder, or bullying. No one gets a free pass. Instead of feeling separate, she started to feel connected to all parents everywhere who were trying their best in difficult circumstances. Her heart opened. The pain was still there, but it was no longer compounded by the feeling of being alone. She realized that being human isn't about being normal or perfect. It's about being as life creates you, with your own unique set of gifts and challenges. This shift allowed her to stop fighting against reality and to love Rowan not in spite of his autism, but for who he was. This is the power of common humanity. It reframes our struggles from moments of isolation to moments of connection. It reminds us that our imperfections are not a personal failing, they are our membership card to the human race. The third and final pillar is mindfulness. Self-kindness and common humanity are incredibly powerful, but they need a third element to be truly effective. Mindfulness, in this context, is a balanced awareness of our painful thoughts and feelings. It means seeing things as they are, no more and no less. Often, we deal with painful emotions in one of two extreme ways. Either we try to suppress them, the stiff upper lip approach where we just push through and pretend we're fine. Or, we do the opposite, we get completely swept away by them. This second way is what drive Neff calls over-identification. When we over-identify with an emotion, it consumes our entire reality. There's no space left to observe what's happening. We don't think, I'm feeling anger. We just think, I am angry. The emotion becomes our entire identity in that moment. It's like being caught in a dramatic movie and forgetting you're in a theater. You're gripping the armrests, your heart is pounding, and you've completely lost perspective. Mindfulness is the moment you remember you're watching a movie. It's a form of meta-awareness, an awareness of your own awareness. It allows you to take a step back and observe your thoughts and feelings without being completely entangled in their storyline. You can say, there's that feeling of anxiety again, or there's that critical thought. This creates a crucial bit of breathing room. It gives you the space to respond wisely, rather than just reacting blindly. A wonderful teacher once gave drive Neff a simple but profound equation. Suffering equals pain x resistance. Life is full of pain. That's unavoidable. We get sick, we lose people we love, we fail. That's the pain part of the equation. But suffering is what we add on top of that pain when we fight against reality. It's the mental anguish that comes from screaming, "This shouldn't be happening." Imagine you're stuck in a traffic jam. The pain is the minor inconvenience and boredom. It's no big deal. The suffering is when you start banging on the steering wheel, yelling about how this is ruining your day, and getting your blood pressure through the roof. You are resisting the reality of the traffic jam, and that resistance is what's causing your anguish. Mindfulness is the practice of lowering our resistance. It's the gentle acceptance that, in this moment, things are the way they are. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to change things in the future. It just means you stop fighting the reality of the present moment. By mindfully relating to our difficult emotions, we allow them to take their natural course, arising, peaking, and eventually passing away, without adding that extra layer of suffering caused by resistance. So, these are the three pillars: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. They work together like the three legs of a stool. Without all three, the whole thing is unstable. Now, we come back to that big, looming question. If I'm so kind and accepting of myself, what will motivate me to change? What will stop me from becoming a lazy, self-indulgent failure? This is perhaps the most important myth that drive Neff's work debunks. The idea that self-criticism is a good motivator is deeply ingrained in our culture, but the research shows it's simply not true. Self-criticism motivates through fear. The fear of our own harsh judgment pushes us to act, but it comes with devastating side effects. It creates anxiety, which undermines performance. Think of test anxiety or stage fright. The fear of being judged can be paralyzing. it also leads to a fear of failure. When we're terrified of the self-lashing that comes with messing up, we become less likely to challenge ourselves. We might procrastinate, so that if we fail, we have a built-in excuse, "I just didn't have enough time," or we might avoid trying altogether. Paradoxically, the fear of failure, driven by self-criticism, makes failure more likely. Self-compassion motivates in a completely different way. It motivates with love. Self-compassion doesn't ask, "Are you good enough?" It asks, "What is good for you?" If you genuinely care about your own well-being, you will want to be healthy and happy. You will want to reach your full potential. A caring parent doesn't let their child eat candy all day just because the child wants to. True care involves making choices that are good for us in the long run. With self-compassion, the desire to change comes not from a place of "I'm worthless and I need to fix myself," but from a place of "I care about myself, and I want to thrive." This is a much more powerful and sustainable source of motivation. Drive. Neff's research has found that people who are more self-compassionate don't have lower standards for themselves. They just don't beat themselves up when they fail to meet them. And because they're not so afraid of failure, they are actually more likely to pick themselves up and try again after a setback. They see failure not as a verdict on their self-worth, but as a valuable learning opportunity. They are more resilient. This same principle applies powerfully to our relationships. When we can't accept our own imperfections, we have a very hard time accepting the imperfections of others. Our insecurities often manifest as criticism, contempt, and defensiveness, what relationship expert John Gottman calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that predict divorce. When we can give ourselves the love and acceptance we crave, we become less needy and dependent on our partners. We're able to communicate more calmly and clearly during conflicts. Drive. Neff's research with couples found that self-compassionate people were described by their partners as more caring, accepting, and supportive. High self-esteem, on the other hand, had no such effect. In fact, it was often associated with ego defensiveness and conflict. To have a good relationship with others, you first need a good relationship with yourself. Ultimately, the journey of self-compassion leads to a place of profound joy. This isn't just about learning to cope with the bad stuff, it's about learning to fully appreciate the good stuff. Drive. Neff calls this self-appreciation. It's not the same as arrogance or narcissism. It's the simple, humble recognition of our own goodness. It's appreciating our strengths not because they make us better than anyone else, but because all people have strengths. It's about celebrating our light without being afraid of it. This opens us up to gratitude, to savoring the small pleasures of life. We can appreciate the simple wonder of being alive, the feeling of the sun on our skin, the taste of good food, the sound of a friend's laughter. This is the ultimate promise of self-compassion. It doesn't eliminate pain from our lives. That's impossible. But it transforms our relationship with it. It holds our suffering in a warm embrace of kindness, connection, and mindful awareness. And in doing so, it creates something new. It creates an island of calm in the stormy seas of life. It creates a space for joy, for gratitude, and for a deep, unshakable sense of worth that comes not from being perfect, but from being fully, beautifully, and imperfectly human. Commentary. As we come to the end of our journey through self-compassion, I find myself reflecting on one simple, powerful idea. Our relationship with ourselves is the foundation for everything else in our lives. It colors how we see the world, how we treat others, and how we respond to the inevitable challenges that come our way. For so long, we've been handed a faulty blueprint for that relationship. We've been told to build our inner home on the shaky ground of self-esteem, a foundation that requires constant validation, comparison, and a desperate effort to be special. When the inevitable storms of failure or disappointment arrive, that home often comes crashing down. What Kristin Neff has given us is a new blueprint, one for a home built on the bedrock of self-compassion. This home isn't built to impress others. It's built to be a sanctuary. It's a place where our imperfections are not hidden away in shame, but are welcomed with kindness. It's a place where we remember that we are part of a vast, interconnected human family, all of us struggling and striving together. It's a place where we can be honest about our pain without letting it consume us. What I find most profound about this book is how it reframes strength. In our culture, strength is often confused with being tough, stoic, and unyielding, especially with ourselves. We think being hard on ourselves is a sign of high standards. But drive. Neff shows us that true strength is not the absence of vulnerability, it's how we respond to it. Real resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about having the kindness and courage to pick ourselves back up, again and again, without judgment. This is not a message of weakness or self-indulgence. It is, in fact, a call to a higher form of courage. It takes courage to face our pain without numbing it. It takes courage to admit our mistakes without deflecting blame. And it takes courage to let go of the need to be better than everyone else and to simply accept ourselves as we are. So, how can you start building this foundation in your own life, right now? Here are a few simple, practical places to begin. First, learn the self-compassion mantra. It's a simple tool for difficult moments. When you feel overwhelmed, just pause and silently say to yourself, 1. This is a moment of suffering. That's mindfulness. 3. May I be kind to myself in this moment. That's self-kindness. This simple practice can create a profound shift, moving you from a state of reactive panic to one of centered care. Second, try changing your critical self-talk. The next time you catch that harsh inner voice judging you, try this. First, notice it without judgment. Then, actively soften it. You might say to that inner critic, I know you're trying to help, but your harshness is just causing more pain. Finally, reframe the observation in a kind, supportive voice, as if you were talking to a dear friend. This practice, over time, can rewire that lifelong habit of self-criticism. And third, practice gratitude. At the end of each day, take just 2 minutes to write down 3 things you are grateful for. It could be something big or something as small as a good cup of coffee. This simple act trains your brain to look for the good, to appreciate what you have rather than obsessing over what you lack. It is a cornerstone of self-appreciation. Ultimately, self-compassion is a practice, not a destination. It's a choice we make in each moment, to meet our suffering with kindness or with judgment, to feel connected or to feel isolated, to be present or to be lost in our stories. It is the choice to stop beating ourselves up and to start, finally, being on our own side. That was a deep dive into self-compassion by Kristin Neff. We've explored the core ideas today, but I have to be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a travel brochure. The real adventure happens when you take the trip yourself. The true power of this book is found in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase resonates in a way you didn't expect. This summary is a map, designed to help you see if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has struck a chord, I truly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new information, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you relate to yourself, and in turn, to the world. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this exploration valuable, it would mean the world to me if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.